How many professional athletes are now Team Trump? Two wives of Miami Dolphins players recently came out in support of Donald Trump on social media. And sports writer Andrew Chapados recently wrote a piece for this on theblaze.com. And Andrew joins us now. So how did Trump get praise from a fairly unlikely source here, Andrew?
I think it helps being in Florida, and inherently a lot of players want to go to Florida in many sports leagues because of the lower taxes and the amenities that they get down there. But this was the wives of two players on the Miami Dolphins, the quarterback's wife, the starting quarterback. He's injured right now with a concussion, but his wife and then one of their best running backs, they both have taken to social media, I believe on Instagram, both of them, and they're basically supporting Trump. And they're sharing stories that are in support of Trump. One of them was regarding, Kamala's lack of communication with Ron DeSantis over the hurricane down in Florida, and she was basically criticizing him for not wanting to talk to him. And he came back and said that she's been in office for 4 years and she's never called before, so why would I call her now? So one of them shared that story, and then they both shared generic messages for Trump by posting articles and sorts of things and saying, that's my president. But the really funny one was from Mostert, the running back's wife, where she called Kamala trash. She said, this isn't it. And she used her own line against her, more of Kamala's like double speak, where she tries to say the same lines over and over again and hope it just kills the time, I guess. But, what we're seeing is these husbands, these huge stars, Tagovailoa has an insane contract, tens of millions of dollars, right? And they're not saying, honey, let's not be political here on the star quarterback. They're just letting it fly. And that's completely different than what I think we've seen from athletes in years past.
Now, Andrew, what's the fallout of this? Because, if we lived in a sensible time frame, right, a sensible timeline, a sensible era with a serious country and serious people, no one would care. We would say, oh, yeah, of course, the wives of athletes have political opinions, and some of them are Republican and some of them are Democrat, right? But we don't live in that universe. So what's the fallout, Ben? Is anyone are they safe? Are there people coming after them on the left, or will there be any fallout?
People will come after them. I'm confident in that. We saw that with Patrick Mahomes' wife, of course, the Kansas City Chiefs quarterback, big star, Super Bowl champion. Her wife dared to say, something remotely in favor of Trump, basically that she didn't hate him, and she got bombarded with messaging. And it's really confusing in the NFL, right? Especially with those Kansas City Chiefs. You've got Patrick Mahomes, who seemingly is impartial, his wife that's pro-Trump, and then he's throwing to a guy in Travis Kelce, who's got a sponsorship with Pfizer and Bud Light, who's allegedly dating. I say allegedly because I don't believe it's real.
I'm with you, Andrew. I'm a resident Swiftie here. I'm totally with you. Keep going. Sorry.
Impressive.
Yeah.
And Taylor Swift is dating him allegedly. And, her political leanings going back to 2017 have been Democrats. So it gets very confusing in some of these locker rooms. But will the Miami players' wives get hate? Of course they will. Every single time somebody says something in support of Trump that is just supporting Trump, they get hate from it. But we have the example of Brittany Mahomes, who got tons of hate for it. And people are getting hate when they just like things that are liked by Trump personnel. So it gets really easy to pile on. But then again, we sort of have to remember that these are people who probably don't watch football anyways. Like, I can go and I can criticize Taylor Swift's albums or her political views, but I'm not going to her concert. So is it really going to affect it?
Listen, that's where you lost me, Andrew. But up until that point, I was completely with you. And we do really appreciate you coming on the show tonight. Thanks so much.
No problem. Down with Taylor. Just kidding.
That's okay. We cannot transition from that to all the Taylor hate. So at this point, it is just one of those things where people are okay to come out and talk in favor of Donald Trump. And this is so different. And we've talked about this before on one of the debate nights. Mm-hmm. People used to be scared to come out and talk about Donald Trump in a way, we're quietly going to be voting for Donald Trump. Now they're openly saying it on social media, even if you're a wife or a girlfriend of an NFL player. They're not scared anymore.
Yeah, well, first off, I think Andrew is scared to come back on the program.
He should be for Tay-Tay
about
alone.
Taylor. Don't worry, Andrew. We love Andrew. You're going to be back on. You'll be fine. We should talk about Taylor a little bit at the end of this. But I think that
Don't tempt me.
That what you're seeing is part of a trend. I don't like to, unnecessarily say this is, a trend. We won't know. We'll have to see what happens in the next historic 3-4 weeks or however long the election process will take. But certainly we see signs. It's different than it was before. I agree with you. You see across the landscape people speaking out in ways they haven't for a long time.
Again, about 3.5 weeks until the election. Did we have it on anybody's bingo card this year that Donald Trump would be speaking at Madison Square Garden right before Election Day? I would not have thought that was going to happen, and yet here we are.
This is, I think, like Chris intimated, this is a sign of, I want to demonstrate power and strength. I want to say, this is mainstream. This is the heart of the country turning against the tide. And, this is the turning of the tide. That's what the Trump campaign is saying. And look, I think there's a lot of truth to it. I see it happening. But of course, the question, as we all know, is can you get past the margin of, structural favoring? Okay. Can you get past the cheating, right? Can you do that?
We just got kicked off YouTube. There it is. You know what? I look at it, though, and so many things are finally taking place and taking shape right now because of these 2 hurricanes that have just gone through. And you see the ineffectiveness of Kamala Harris, where she's going out there and she's trying to lead. Yeah. And it's been completely undermined by just her own incompetence.
No, that's a great point, too, because this is kind of a layup for a politician, right? I mean, disaster response is sort of like, how can you screw that up? If you're prepared, something about anything, you come out, you say the right things. And instead, she's kind of got hosed in a variety of directions. It just everything that she's doing is going wrong. And even the leftists in the media seem to recognize it.
And if there's one person that I don't want to pick a fight with on the one topic that he is knockout great at, it is Ron DeSantis and disaster preparation. So that's true. It. And she just, again, it's not knowing the limits of what you should be doing.
It's just very simple, like, Kamala, don't talk against competence. Don't get in the camera with competent people.